Hello and a very warm welcome back to the channel of vaguely professional motorbike reviews. Now, what is the best Monster? Is it the energy drink? Is it pickled onion Monster Munch, which is a crisp you can buy in the UK, which is epic? Or is it the new Ducati Monster, which doesn't have a trellis frame? So is it really a Monster anymore? I guess internet purists will tell me in the comments, but I just want to find out if this is a good entry-level, affordable Ducati, because it is £11,000, it's got 100 odd horsepower, and I just want to take it for a ride to find out. This might be a single GoPro review because that GoPro has died a death filming a review of the Street Fighter V2 this morning. But anyway, let's hop on and go for a ride on this new Monster. And my initial impressions are it's very much an easier bike to ride at low speeds than that Street Fighter V2. It is not as lumpy as the same engine in a Hypermotard 950, right? Let's do some quick dual carriageway action, and we're going to spend the bulk of this review on twisty roads to see if this feels like a Monster. I don't know why I'm talking to this GoPro. It stopped working with some kind of weird card error. Yay! GoPro Corporation can go and do one, as far as I'm concerned. Anyway, enough waffle. I'm going to let the bike warm up, and I'll see you in a second. Right, very brief Monster motorway impressions are, it's a naked bike, you've got loads of wind blast on your chest and you would get cold because it's only got a small screen on it. I should say there's a Monster and a Monster Plus. The Monster Plus gets this little screen, but this is a normal Monster that's had it added. But yeah, it doesn't do a huge amount really, that screen, all the wind's on your chest. But you know, some people prefer that to having a big adventure bike screen, which actually can cause loads of buffeting and be a bit of a pain. Now the tank feels really thin between my legs. It feels like a proper old school Ducati that took advantage of that kind of inline V-twin thinness. This feels like it does the same thing. Got nice cutouts for my knees. I'm 6'3" with long legs, and I'm not being annoyed by the shape of the tank. And the seat height, which I'll get onto in a bit because we're going to do a full walk around and I'll show you the facts, the figures and everything else. The seat height is pretty low, like my knees are very bent, flat-footed on the ground, so it's an approachable bike. Obviously the whole point is this is probably your first Ducati that isn't a scrambler. But initial impressions of the engine are, like all bikes with this Testa Stretta engine, exciting. That GoPro has died. That's all it's done today. Why GoPro? Why do you hate me? But anyway, this one is still rolling. This is the one that matters. So I'm about to go from a 40 limit down a B road. I'm in sport mode, the engine's warm, the tyres are getting there. Let's go, second gear. Oh yeah, the bar's going light at the middle of second gear there. It's it's got poke. It's got poke. It isn't tear your face off fast, but this engine is so well matched to British B roads and having some fun. I've got to be a bit careful because these tyres look pretty shiny and new. But yeah, this is entertaining. Obviously it's got a full suite of electronics, it's got cornering, traction control and EBS, etc, etc. And I think that might have just been working there. A greasy spot on the side of the tyre. But yeah, this is an upright naked bike in the purest sense, really. I know it doesn't have a trellis frame, but the Monster's always been that kind of slightly aggressive, slightly relaxed roadster, and this certainly feels like it continues that theme because I'm in a very relaxed position here, but I've got loads of poke. Go to a corner, tip it in. Yeah, the chassis, the suspension I should say, the suspension is reasonably soft, but it's well judged enough to give me the support I want when I tip it into a corner. At least that's my initial impression. Let's go around this corner, a bit circumspect because it's usually covered in crap. Yeah, it flows with the road. There's not such a stiff suspension setup. I'm being jolted out of my seat. I've just got off the Street Fighter V2 and that is as sporty as you like. It's super firm. This is not, which is good because it's not got adjustable forks, and the rear shock is only adjustable for preload, so it's reasonably budget in terms of setup as far as Ducatis go, but it's ironing out loads of bumps in this road that I would really be feeling on a sportier bike. Oh yeah, I should point out, it's got an up and down quick shifter that works really quite well. I know Ducati's had some slight problems with it on this engine before. My mate's old Modstrad 950, that cut out quite a lot, the quick shifter just stopped working, but on this it seems smoother. And on the Modstrad V2, the new one, it's buttery as well. So again, a lovely thing to have on a bike as standard, not having to pay extra to put it on, or if you're KTM, have it on there and unlock it digitally, which is a bit cheeky if you ask me. But yeah, so far this feels like an impressively approachable first big bike. And I know some people think you shouldn't have anything with 110 horsepower as your first big bike, but I had a street trip. It was my first ever bike, not even first big bike, my first bike full stop, and I thought that was great because I could grow into it. The throttle only goes as far as you open it, so if you want to take it easy, you can take it easy. If you want to be excited, well, this can certainly deliver. Yeah, I'm getting good vibes from this. Doesn't feel entry level. It certainly doesn't feel cheap. That motor sounds pretty good through the airbox. It's not deafening. The exhaust is obviously as silent as the grave because of Euro 5 emissions regulations. It's shit in the road. I like it. I also like what Ducati's doing these days in terms of mirrors. These are chunky metal arms. There's no plastic there. They're a bit hard to adjust up top, but they're solid, and they're not going to do that thing where they spin round, which you sometimes get. So this all feels really premium. But anyway, I'm going to stop waffling, get my proper camera out, and show you all the bits and bobs that are on this bike, and talk more about options, prices, and all that good stuff. And then we'll carry on riding. I'll see you in a second. Right, that was all very exciting. Hopefully you can actually hear me because my GoPros are playing up something chronic today. But anyway, let's go for a walk around of the new Ducati Monster. I'll tell you the facts, the figures, and all that good stuff, and probably what its mum's name is. According to the press release, the Ducati Monster's mum's name is actually Margaret, but anyway, that's probably not relevant. It's got 111 horsepower, which is the same as the old Monster 821, but this only weighs 166 kilos dry, so it's 18 kilos lighter than the old trellis-framed Monster 821. This costs £10,895 from Monster, or £11,195 for the Monster Plus, which gets this little screen, which, as I said, you can add to the Monster anyway, and it gets a rear seat cowl as well, probably in the accessories catalogue anyway, so there's not a huge difference really. It comes in red, black or grey. Red is the cheapest colour, and the others cost £200 more. And while you're speccing your Monster at the Ducati dealer, you can add £1,900 worth of Akrapovic slip-ons, or £600 of pixelated artwork, which actually does look quite cool. Almost looks a bit like the original V4 Street Fighter Pikes Peak bike, or heated grips for £273, as with every other Ducati. I think it's cool. I mean, it'd be a crap garden centre because it's got no trellis anymore, but that might make it better as a bike, and it's got the same aluminium front frame as the Panigale V4, and I think that's all a big part of the weight saving, and certainly adding stiffness to it, I think that goes a long way. Now, this being a reasonably affordable Ducati, it's probably going to be some people's first Ducati, so seat height is quite important. 820mm is your seat height. That can go down to 795mm with a lower seat option. There's actually a lower suspension kit as well for 224 quid, which takes it down to 775mm. So there's loads of ways to alter the seat height, which is pretty low anyway, to be honest. So this is an approachable bike for everyone, and I guess that's the whole point of it. The bars, they're a bit narrower than before on previous Monsters, sorry about my shadow, and the pegs are slightly lower. So it's just a more comfortable thing. The engine, it is the 937cc test stretcher engine that's in. The Multistrada V2, the Hyper Motard 950, probably some other things that I've forgotten about. It's a really good engine, excuse the white stuff on it. I've melted a carrier bag or something on it that hit me when I was riding it. It's got a 14 litre fuel tank, and in terms of power, 111 horsepower, as I've said, 93 newton-meters of torque. So it's not really entry-level power, as we've said out on the road. The braking's Brembo M4s, they're really good. Rosso 3 tyres, they're not the latest, but they are also pretty good. I just really like the single headlight look. If I turn it off and on again, you can see the daytime running light lights up. I just really like it. It's kind of like a a squished oval. And I know there are lots of purists out there on the internet. I say purists, angry old men who don't like the fact that they've not made it perfectly round. There's the seat, there's a Monster badge on it. So many Monster badges on this bike. I think it's quite a handsome looking thing. I like Ducatis in grey with red wheels. It's just a nice looking thing. Oh, hello, LED indicators. Right, in terms of tech, it gets the same 4.3-inch TFT, which is going to reflect everything. It's fine when you're using it, it's just my camera is picking up all the reflections. It's not massive, but you can see all the modes, you can see the quick shifters enabled because it's got one as standard, traction control, ABS and wheelie control. And you've got 3 rider modes of which you access using this button here. So you've got sport, touring, urban, and they all soften it up or make it more aggressive. The mirrors, banged on about them, nice solid feeling metal ones. And that's kind of about it really. The pillion seat is actually quite flat, quite usable, and it's not 6 feet up in the air like on some of Ducati's sportier naked bikes. But yeah, that's that narrowness I was talking about between your legs. It's a nice sculpted tank that doesn't feel too fat and like your knees are being forced apart, which means it's easier to get your feet down. But anyway, let's go and get our knee down and do a bit more riding. I'm not going to get my knee down, it's about 5 degrees. And I'm wearing textiles because I'm a sexy biking dad. But anyway, I'm going to go for a ride out of the wind and do a bit of concluding if my GoPros bloody work. Actually, just before we do that, look at the indicators. They're kind of built into the front here, and I don't know if you can see that, but they scroll like off of a 2014 onwards Audi TT. Isn't that great? Anyway, let's go and ride while the sun's out. Right, let's head back out on the Ducati Monster. Firmer conclusion, GoPro's going to die, so this might be a little bit rushed. That sounds like my old Hypermotard. I like it. Now, one thing that strikes me when I get on this bike, which I haven't really spoken about at great length, is, oh, I forgot to put my earplugs in. Anyway, is how small it feels. Yet, obviously it's got power, and it's got power everywhere, and if you like that feeling of being on a small bike which has stacks and stacks of go, then this is going to be right up your alleyway. Now, in terms of rivals, price wise, this is going to go up against things like the KTM 890 Duke series. I rode the 890 Duke out last year on these roads, and it was a bit silly. It's definitely more of a nutter machine than this. It's a bit more powerful than this. The chassis is just one of the best motorbike chassis you can buy on that bike. I love that KTM. It's just, it's delicious, but it's very focused. It feels cheaper than this. It's a bit more plasticky. They spent all the money on the tyres and the chassis of that bike. So if you want a corner nutter machine that does wheelies quite a lot as well, I'd recommend picking the KTM over this. But if you want a more rounded, premium feeling thing, I would go for this. I thought that was a horse, it's just a man. I pulled the clutch in. Thank you, kind sir. MT-09 is cheaper than this. MT-09 SP is probably about the same money as this. I have not ridden one of those, so I can't really talk about that, but that's probably going to feel a bit sillier because that triple is apparently quite an unhinged thing. Oh, I'm getting a lot more airbox noise now. I haven't got my earplugs in. So yeah, this Ducati kind of, it sits in the middle ground, I guess. It does quite a lot of things very, very nicely indeed. And that probably makes it sound like a bit dull, but it definitely isn't. It's got loads of power. It's got a really nice chassis and a nice suspension setup for British roads. I don't know. I've just been having a great time on it, and I don't think I can really say much more praise than that. It's got the tech, it's got the up-down quick shifter. I think it looks posh. I can't really find any cheap looking bits on it. I had a poke around. The rear brake lever is black painted metal. Well, it might look a bit cheaper than the usual silver ones you got in Ducati's higher end models, but you would only know that if you compared them like for like. So yeah, really impressed with this bike. So if you want your first Ducati, this is approachable, but it will give you the proper Ducati thrill when you gas it in second gear into a national speed limit, and you'll be laughing and you'll be loving life. And really, isn't that what motorbikes are all about? So yeah, well done Ducati. You weren't exactly going to release a stinker, and this is definitely not that. Downsides, well, that screen's a little bit small, but it's kind of Ducati's thing now, unless you're paying 20 grand for one of their top end models. LED indicators and options, quite a lot of optional stuff, but at least it's not like KTM where you're paying to unlock stuff that's already on the bike. Yeah, 14 litre fuel tank. That's probably only going to get you 110 miles, something like that. Other than that, I really like it, and I'm a big bloke. I'm 6'3" and I'm riding this, and I've not been getting aches or pains or anything. The seat is comfortable. It's not got a huge amount of space to move backwards and forwards on it, but it locks you in, and you kind of need that when you're accelerating hard on this. It's nice to have that reassuring prod in the tailbone, just to keep you locked in place. Right, I think my GoPro is probably going to die, so I'll say goodbye now. Thank you for watching. If this has been helpful, please hit like and leave a nice comment calling me something funny in Italian. I'll translate it and give internet point awards for whoever's funniest. And that GoPro could just bugger off because it's rubbish. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time.